Well, it's 7:28 p.m. March 20. I keep saying it's the 28th, or it's actually the 18th. It's March 18th. It's Tuesday evening, and I'm getting ready to wind it up for the evening. But I wanted to make another video. I've been very chatty lately because there's just been a lot on my mind, and I'm making another video because Maria needs therapy because this billionaire boy, along with the Mormon Church, basically put me in a situation where I will never get any full justice, and the pain, the mental pain that they caused is very unique and probably not going to be treated regularly. If I was the kind of person that, sought medical attention, which I'm not, right? Because I don't trust the medical system and I don't think they're competent, and I don't like, antidepressants and whatever. But let's just say, for example, I was somebody who wanted to get medical attention for my very unique problem. They have been instructed to never, ever confirm this. I'm sitting here explaining to them that I was, gang stalked by a large organization in a huge human trafficking ring, and who is there for me? No one. You know what I mean? And this is why I have a very hard time dealing with, this issue, because it was a covert operation, and all the pain and all the, chances of me surviving and having a normal life, meaning not getting, feeling nervous, depressed, or having some sort of trigger response when I have to go look for work or whatever, I will never fully be cured. You know what I mean? Because I have to deal with so much on my own, and to hell with Maria. And this is why I have so much resentment for these people. This whole story should be well publicized in so many ways, okay? But I understand, we have to sweep things under the carpet, and I think it's best to sweep things under the carpet in this case, because we don't want to overemphasize this sort of scandal and what was actually enacted out on the American people. To me, it's just shameful. It's absolutely shameful that this weirdo did what he did. Really. And then had people so deceived, or, either puffed up with pride so they follow him along with them, or they were deceived hoping that they could, gain some sort of benefit by hurting another human being. So, but this is like what I'm talking about is human behavior. This is why this is a very important study, and this is why I felt as though it is something that should be like taught in school, or people should talk about it in social circles pertaining to psychology, even law. This is so many lessons that, this whole thing to me kind of proved. But anyway, I realize how bored, in life I am. Like I said, I'm somebody who enjoys activity, constant. I like moving. I like mind stimulation, and being stuck at home, is just driving me crazy. It's driving me absolutely mad. And then, I'm somebody who likes to change environments, and I've tried to get things in order in my house, and unfortunately they're not the way that I want them to be. And it's very frustrating because I need different spaces to go into to, combat boredom. You know what I mean? And of course, I don't have a car, right? So, the other place I could go to is the library, which is fine. But the last few days, it's just been really hazy gray, which makes me also feel is like, man, what's going on in the atmosphere? What's the chatter going on? And yes, I do correlate the weather with like world events. For some reason, this makes me go into my meditations even deeper and want to get insight into stuff, So anyway, yeah, but I will say in the last like 4 days, I've just been kind of like drained by thinking the same repetitive thoughts over and over again, which, this reflects in my videos because, you know, um, when I think of cruelty, when I think of evil, when I think of hypocrisy and all this other stuff, I didn't deserve what happened. I didn't deserve to be, treated the way that I was. I didn't deserve any of it. And it was like, this person came in and ruined my life. Ruined it. You know what I mean? And I will say that these sort of operations, is meant to kill people. I will tell you that this particular group of people, such as Rex Laverne, Steve Murray, which are both dead in the ground, and I'm very grateful for it. Um, and then we have what do you got, net worth billionaire boy. These kind of people, it seems as though they like to enact tactics on people that they know good and well will kill them, right? Because all of these guys died of humiliation, right? And so they enact all of these things on a person, hoping that it's going to have the same sort of reaction. You know what I mean? They would set me up in situations where they're overly focused on me or trying to force me into like trying to be embarrassed or whatever. And it's like, I get really tired of it. But if you sit here and focus attention on them, where they're forced to reflect on themselves, these people self-destruct. You know what I mean? So it's like, I understand their angles and where they're always coming from. You know what I mean? I deal with evil in the best way I possibly can. So when I was like, thinking about the days of King Solomon was known to be someone who was able to combat demons. And now I understand what that means. As Maria Gordon, it's like, I have dealt in my life with evil people, wicked people, and just basically all my lives. And I understand that now. So it's not necessarily dealing with demons, it's referring to wicked people as demons, which is kind of like the offshoot of like, archons and demiurge or whatever. But anyway, yeah, I realize how bored I am. I'm bored and I need more activity and I need to be out somewhere, and this is who I am. And I get tired of, being isolated. And the sad part is like, I understand. It's like, it's difficult for people to really connect. I think everybody always dreams of having that ideal girlfriend who is just so matched well for them that they love doing the same things at the same time. That's nice, but really I am a loner. But it would be nice if I did have someone that I, did stuff with every once in a while. You know what I mean? And also had some sort of activity, and the sad part is that these people absorb so much of your life. They absorb, like, what's his billionaire, what loser dude, whatever his name is, he just literally plowed through my life. And it didn't matter that I was telling him not to. And this is like what really bothers me. It's like somebody who acts against your will. And I knew when I realized that I was dealing with somebody who was not willing to listen the first time, that I kept thinking, this must be deeper than that. It must be deeper than that. And then finally, it's like, okay, it goes down to the Mormon church, and it goes down to this. And it's like, oh my God, okay, now we're talking about Nazism and racial cleansing. And to me, this is exactly what it is. Tell me it's not. You know what I mean? And I realize, as a minority, you don't have to be somebody who is political with your existence. Like, I've never been a part of any sort of movement that was like, a part of Black Panthers or anything like that, even though I understand, that Black people have historically been discriminated against. And I understand that. I've experienced it myself. My father's experienced it. But I have never been somebody who tried to, make my point, try to focus on Black issues in the workplace. I've never done that. Now, when people would sit here and create problems for me and I would stand up for myself, that was the only time I did it. So this whole thing, it's a self-reflection, and you have to be able to acknowledge the fact that racism is usually a one-way street. You know what I mean? At least in my case, okay? Because I have done absolutely nothing. But yet, I've constantly dealt with, people mistreating me, and they know exactly what their problem is. The problem with it is that there's an element of evil in them. Because God knows I don't deserve it. And I certainly have never tried to hinder any growth within the white community. Never. Okay, so the issue really is that, I was hated just because I was better than this particular billionaire boy. And as well as his group of Mormon friends or whatever. And I know that Mormon church has like really grown in numbers, it seems. And so, and like I said, I remember back in the days when Christian denominations would talk and discuss other denominations, the first group of people that they would bag on were the Mormons. Okay, why? Because Mormons had beliefs that a lot of Christians just outright didn't agree with. For example, even though Mormons nowadays do not practice polygamy, there were a lot of people in the Christian faith that just hated Mormons just because they were associated with it at one time. They didn't like the fact that Mormons actually believed that one day they were going to go to some sort of planet, rule over that planet, and become a god, because that did not coincide with the other Christian beliefs. beliefs, okay? So people really did not like Mormons. They didn't like them. Okay, so in the last, it seems interesting to me that now, or since, the arrival or the, catapulting of fame of this particular net worth billionaire boy comes into play, suddenly Mormonism is like, on the top. It's quite interesting to me. But, it's like money talks, and see, that's where I differ from religion. You know what I mean? That's where I differ from religion. To me, connection to God is, you know, to me it's free, okay? But I do understand there's certain support systems that you get within the church, okay? Or that, and I'm referring to any church, okay? So I do understand that. But I guess, I'm somebody who's just like really into, my personal connection with the divine. And I believe that it's the personal connection to the divine that really matters, as far as like how you communicate and the blessings that you receive. And this is what I believe, okay? I have been resented for a very, very long time. And I was encouraged, by this particular group of people, I don't even know what to say at this point, but I just feel as though, I'm angry at what was taken from me because, I feel as though, my goals in life, I question, whether I'm going to have a fulfilling life what's left of my life after what this man has done. And I have a hard time, I cannot forgive this person for that. You know what I mean? I'm not damning or thinking and wishing his soul bad, but what I'm saying is like, that's a great example of the selfish attitude, narcissism, or however you want to look at it, where they don't consider, other people's. But see, I understand that it was deeper than that. It was deeper than, somebody just being a little jealous of you. This was a full out agenda. Okay, a huge agenda, which I'm glad has backfired on them. I really am glad. Unfortunately, other people have to suffer, and hopefully, I'm hoping that things are going to clear up and almost as if it never happened. And the reason why I say this is because, I think that this man was driving people to do things that they didn't want to do. I think he had so much power that he was twisting people's arm to do a lot of things. I think this man was extremely tyrannical. You know what I mean? And this is one of the reasons why we do need like those checks and balances and be very careful about who creeps in, the government system. It really, whatever. Anyway, what else do I want to say? Let me go over these messages. Oh, I was thinking about, in my project, I am going to be talking a little bit about, how certain agencies, I know in the past, like, there was a time where I was trying to get on disability, right? Because I kept thinking, how am I going to survive? Because these people had me messing up with jobs and not, playing around with me. They did this so much, especially, those years after I left Murray Family Farms. And I kept thinking, I knew that a lot of people went out on disability. Did I actually have a real disability? At the time, I was extremely filled with anxiety, okay? And I am not somebody who ever relies on the medical system, but I did call like this number, hoping that they could direct my steps into getting some sort of like brief medical attention so that I could get on disability, right? Well, I understood that call was like intercepted, and I also understood that these people thought this whole thing was a game. Like it didn't, I'm sitting here trying to get assistance. I think it was Omni, maybe it was Omni, probably. Anyway, I'm sitting here trying to get assistance, and they were all participating in the human trafficking thing. It was all a big joke. It's not a joke. This is what I'm talking about. Like when human trafficking is a very serious issue, and it's not a game. But people were told, this man instructed people to not take a person's word seriously. Do you understand, like, when people are victims of human trafficking, that somebody could do this to somebody, like, and tell people, hey, don't take this person's call, like a 911 call. Don't take their call seriously, so this person can end up dying. Okay, this is the kind of stuff that, is wrong. And I kept telling the entire community. I had no point, I had no reason to withhold my judgment of of this community when I realize how they let this shit happen. You know what I mean? Hopefully, I mean, I don't even want to know. Okay, but I'm not like, it's just very disturbing to me that people would let this happen or not identify genocide when it's in their face, because that's exactly what it was. And I knew, and I called it out for what it was when this first thing started happening. You know what I mean? I'm just like completely shaken. Anyway, these departments, like, that are in charge of, like, for example, the Department of Human Trafficking. I don't know if that Department of Human Trafficking is still here in Bakersfield or not. Something tells me that somebody else is taking on that task or whatever, but I do know that when I was dealing with targeting, the Department of Human Trafficking didn't seem to pay any attention to what I was doing. And, the problem with it is that, like I said, they are always under the assumption, like, all the companies and all the people, the neighbors and stuff, they're thinking, well, because this person is who they are and they're affiliated with the church, this can't possibly be wrong. I'm going to tell you right now, this is exactly what makes it so that it was wrong. So this should never happen again to anybody. Okay? Churches do not have the right to sit here and harass people, gang stalk people, conspire against a person, take advantage of as a person financially. And yes, this is to me financial abuse. Why would you say that, Maria? I have no idea if I made money on Patreon or Ko-fi or not. Okay, but it's the fact that I created something and somebody stole that, thought that they could absorb that, own some sort of rights over it, and then, and then show it to other people for free. That wasn't your right to do that. Okay, meanwhile, I'm 54 years old, and yes, I'm going to bitch about the retirement thing right now. Okay, who's to say? I would think, and that is, of course, that these people weren't coaching people to be a part of their religion and acting against me. I understand what these people did. They covered their bases to squash me out. That's what they did. Okay, and I will tell you right now, that was wicked. Wicked. Evil shit. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you don't agree with the content. It doesn't matter if you believe that your religion was right and I was wrong. It doesn't matter if you thought that I was worshiping the devil, which of course I am not. Never have. But that still does not give you the right legally to touch anything that doesn't belong to you. And see, this is what pissed me off. You know what I mean? They trivialized me just because they felt like it. And that's what pisses me off so bad. Now I understand, that there's a lot of people who live off the system. Like they literally live off the system. Things like, getting food stamps or some sort of assistance, it's not just temporary for them. Some people literally take advantage of that stuff. But I will tell you, throughout my entire life, I have always wanted to work, made an effort to work, and then I never expected anybody to, deal with my baggage. Like, I'm very grateful that my son is willing to live here with me, right? But I understand we were both separate adults, meaning he has his likes, I have my likes. We are two different people, and he should be doing things that he wants to do. But they think, it's like somebody decided what we were going to do, what was comfortable for us, how we were going to live. This man, okay, this net worth billionaire, whatever, has caused too many problems. Too many problems. So, I'm angry because I deserve a better life. I deserve a better life, okay? And I'm not just speaking for me, but I know there's a lot of other people who are affected by this. But, I know that it's caused me a lot of depression. You know what I mean? Because, they expect me to just be, she's going to be able to get jobs and stuff, and she should be happy. But let me explain to you that what my jobs have been like, that have been given by these people. Okay? They want to ignore everything that I do. Okay? Just like Rex Laverne. I do not appreciate people ignoring what is on my resume. Meaning, they know good and well that I've done accounts payable. They know good and well that I know how to do this. They know good and well, and they act like they're dumb every time. And the reason why they act like they're dumb, because you're not there to do work. You're doing the work, mind you, but you're there for some other little reason, like their stupid operation. And this is one of the reasons why when I was talking about the girl who I was working with over there, and he acted like he didn't know what this girl was trained on, right? He was like, he was talking about her, he was like, well, I don't know if she's going to be able to handle this, but, he wanted me to teach her how to do something. And I asked her, she said, oh, yeah, I already know how to do that, right? And I kept thinking, oh, wow. And I kept thinking, making a mental note. And I actually wrote it down, too. The reason why I wrote it down is because I wanted to talk to people about what kind of managers you don't want. Okay, and he's one of those kind of managers you don't want. But it was deeper than that. The reason why, he really wasn't knowing what he's supposed to do after he trained her is because she wasn't there for her work quality either. She was there because she was a victim of human trafficking. Okay, now she may have a family, she may not. She may be putting herself through college, okay? But here's this man playing around with her career. The thing is that this girl should be working for an employer who's going to fairly evaluate her so that she has some sort of hope either to grow in the company or whatever. It's like when you are a victim of human trafficking, they are literally playing with your life, and they don't care. They don't care. Okay, so this girl can forget about getting any raises or anything like that because she's not there for that reason. She's here to, indirectly either support the Mormon church, fall in love with some guy that she's going to be set up with, or something else, okay, other than her work. Okay, yes, I am a dead serious person when it comes to work, and what pissed me off, okay, is, okay, I'm going to go back on the clothes thing for just a second. And the reason why is because, I love my clothes, okay? I love my clothes. My clothes are everything to me. Everything, the little bit of stuff that I do have, it means everything to me. That is the only reason why it makes life worth living, okay? That is it. It is the truth. If it wasn't for painting, arts and crafts, miniatures, drawing, clothes, and stuff like that, I would care nothing about life. Nothing. It is what it is. Okay? So those things are the things that I care about. And those are the very things that they had an issue with. You know what I mean? And they like to taunt you with that sort of stuff. They love to mentally torment you with that. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, when you talk about women's bodies, women do we value our bodies for our own reasons. You know what I mean? And we don't like people even insinuating stuff about it because we've heard it so many times before. Our bodies are our bodies. And you'll hear these men sitting here saying, like this one girl, she was on Instagram, and I do not remember her account either, okay? But I would say she was fairly young. She may be 19, anywhere from 19 to 25 years old. She grew up at a fundamentalist church, okay? She was talking about how some of these guys at her church would be talking about, seeing girls wearing certain clothes, right? And, okay, I'm not somebody who dresses provocatively. When I wear clothes, I usually cover no cleavage. I don't show cleavage, okay? But I'm not that bad at bashing people who do. I'm just kind of self-conscious, okay? I'm just one of those people. But my point is that, her pastor was talking about what she can and cannot wear, blah, 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 and how he feels when he sees girls looking like this, and he probably does. Some girls who dress very revealing, they probably do get excited. You know what I mean? But you know what? She has a right to dress that way. And the problem with it is they forbid girls from wearing what they want to wear. Have you ever heard of self-control? It's not, it's like, but mind you, I will say when it comes to girls, young girls and stuff, their parents should have those rules set in place as to how old they are when they wear these sort of clothes, okay? But it's almost like, well, it's always the girl's fault. It's always the girl's fault. If she chooses to be attractive, that's her choice. Okay, and if you can't handle it, like he's sitting there talking about how he can't resist, and he's sounding like more and more perverted as what she's describing. I can't resist, or it just drives me crazy, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, people have to sacrifice what they want to do in life because this selfish bastard doesn't have any self-control. It is what it is. It's like each person is responsible for themselves, okay? People have to, live their own life, and that's what it boils down to. You know what I mean? It's not, it is what it is. Like I said, if this girl's over the age of 18, whatever, she can wear whichever she wants to wear. Now, when it comes to people who have children who are under the age of 18, they decide exactly how legally, it's in their house, what their kids can and cannot wear until that kid's older. And believe me, there's times where people live under their parents' house, in their parents' household, And even though they are over the age of 18, because they're living with their parents, that's the stipulation that their parents, if you're not paying any rent, it really doesn't, to them, it might be the agreement where they have to abide by their rules because they're living under that household. It is what it is. You don't have any rent, I guess you really don't have a right to say anything. You know what I mean? Unless, of course, you want to live outside. But that, still legally, whatever. Whatever. The thing is that, I'm tired of the flimsy excuse of squashing out the light in women. Okay? Now, or assuming that what you wear every day is for male gaze. Okay? I love my clothes. I love my choices. I will say, when it comes to my hair, I'm okay with the wig, but personally, I think it should be a little bit shorter. And, I'm comfortable with the way I look. To me, that's a professional look. I like a well-polished look when I go to the office. I do. Because it also inspires me to work harder. Okay? I do believe clothes have more power than you can imagine. That's my personal belief, and I should not have to justify that to anyone. So when you're wearing nice clothes and you tell people you don't want to get married, then this makes these men triggered. It triggers them. You know what I mean? And you don't have the right to sit here and test me and hold me back for years and decades trying to test me or get some sort of reaction, or try to, bring somebody else in to see if this one's going to work and waste my time. This is why I'm talking about the law. And I know that this motherfucker has done what he could to try to manipulate laws and stuff like this. This man was a tyrant. Okay? And if I had it under my jurisdiction, I would get all these human traffickers, line them up, and put them in front of a firing squad. And I would let people who've been their victims watch it. You know why? Because they need closure to know that that shit's never going to happen again. Does that sound like really harsh? Does it sound harsh? I don't think so. I don't really think so. Because there's people who like to ruin other people's peace of mind. There's people who like to wear their little terrorism. And that's exactly what it is. It's a form of terrorism. So people get what they deserve. And that's how I think it should be. And it's not how I think it should be. I know it should be. Anyway, what else do I want to say? That's it. But I think these agencies should be more on board with it. And I think people who are victims of human trafficking, they do need their protection. They need to be in a place where they're going to get that support. And they need people who's going to uphold their confidentiality. There are some homeless shelters as well, but like domestic abuse shelters where people go to, and it's a private address. They're not supposed to know. I remember back in the 90s, there was this woman, she went, and she'd have to call a number, and then they would tell you where the address is, and you could not, if you were somebody who was going there, you were not allowed to disclose that address. It was not allowed to be told to the public. Things need to be set up where people are protected from this sort of abuse, instead of encouraging, communities to be a part of this sort of genocide, because that's exactly what it is. It's genocide. Okay? And it was enacted out publicly, and they could not deny it. Okay? So anyway, and that's why Rex Laverne got, and I wish I could have seen it. I wish I could have seen it. Not to be morbid, you know why? Because I want to see it, because I want to know that I will never have to walk into a job interview and feel that feeling of being terrified ever again. For the most important aspect of your life. If you can't work, what can you do? You know what I mean? I really do get annoyed with this normalizing of stalking people, and the normalization of harassing people, and the normalization of thinking that you can block people out, ostracize them, shadow ban them, blacklist them, affect their career, destroy their reputation, and then think it's okay to continue and let this person suffer with the mental trauma. Yeah, it's wrong. Every time you sweep it under the rug and I have to sit here and take it, you know what I mean? Because no one's going to sit here and say, hey, Maria, are you okay? Are you okay? I know what happened to you. Are you okay? Just that alone would help heal a person. But you guys are so fucking selfish that you let that shit happen. Okay? So you really need to think about that. What inside you allows a person to carry that kind of trauma? Think about it. Wrapping up this video.